Hello, Rachel here from Beautiful Budget. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. If you're new around here, welcome. I am all about helping women manage money with wealth and fulfillment in mind. So if you are looking for somewhere to learn about money, to leverage tools and resources to help you organize that money more than you ever have, and in an elegant way, and you're looking to see that your money stops going and starts growing, this channel is for you. Hit that like button. Be sure to hit subscribe so that you never miss a beat. Today, I want to talk about home ownership and all of the things that we are getting wrong when it comes to understanding the costs associated with owning a home. You'll never hear me say that renting is throwing away money, because I found that the same people who say that are those who don't really understand the hidden costs, the phantom costs associated with owning a home. So let's break that down today. Let's put to the side what we think we know about the numbers that go into this, and let's really start from scratch and put ourselves in the best position that we can to determine, hey, is this decision, this massive purchase, is this right for me? Is this right for my family? I think a great place to start is what's in a mortgage. We hear that term and we get it, right? The mortgage, that's what I'm going to pay every month because I decided to purchase a home. I'm now a homeowner. I'm going to pay my mortgage every month. But what goes into it? What is that payment made of? Here's the acronym you need to know when it comes to mortgage. That acronym is PITI, P-I-T-I. What this stands for is principal, interest, taxes, insurance. Without us really realizing it, when we say mortgage, a lot of us are really only capturing the PI. The principal, which is that loan balance that you took out to purchase a home, and the interest that you're paying, because obviously there's a little bit that you're going to give back to the lender in interest in addition to the balance. So that's what we are capturing typically when we talk about a mortgage, but we're not getting the whole picture. We're leaving out the T and the I, taxes and insurance. Taxes, more specifically, we're talking about property taxes. Yes, you're going to pay property taxes on this home. And the insurance side of it is homeowner's insurance, to be expected, right? We can kind of wrap our heads around that. But it could also be private mortgage insurance, or PMI, which comes into play when you put less than 20% down when you go to purchase a home. Now, in some cases, you guys know I always like to point out the asterisk. The asterisk there is if you happen to use a VA loan, which is what we did, PMI is not going to be applicable in any situation with a VA loan. So just thought I'd throw in that tidbit. But PITI is the full picture when you talk about a mortgage payment. So you're not only paying off that loan balance with some interest on top of it, right? And that interest rate is outlined in your loan agreement, but you have this tax and insurance component to it. And here's a myth I want to debunk early on in this video, which is your mortgage will never change. Oh, my sweet summer child. I actually have a letter downstairs in our kitchen from our lender that outlines just how much our mortgage payment in total is going to increase and why. And it gives us this nice table to show, hey, the property taxes that you're currently putting in as part of your mortgage payment are too low. All right. And we need to increase that. So guess what? Your next mortgage payment is actually going up by, it's just shy of $200. So it's a noteworthy increase. And I admit that I was one of those people who said, oh, my mortgage payment will never change. Don't be fooled. It absolutely can. And the part that will change is that T and the I. That's the part that can be impacted. Now, how did we find ourselves in a situation where the property taxes we were putting in as part of our mortgage payment were too low? How does that even happen? I have friends of mine who are homeowners who are like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, we purchased a new build in 2021, and the estimate, and that's really all it is, of what our property taxes would be, it wasn't really based on, once the home was built and everything that was, all of the facts that were true when the home was built and it was ready for us to move into. There was an estimate that had been done prior to that, and it was too low. And this actually happens pretty often, as I have found, with new builds. And so the amount that we were paying in for property taxes during that first year, they were too low. But thankfully, lender's on our side and is saying, hey, I don't want you to reach a situation where you need to face that annual property tax bill and you don't have enough, right? I want you to be able to cover it in full, so let's adjust your mortgage payment. So here's the thing. You have this escrow, and it's not 100% of the time that you're going to have an escrow account set up, but so many of us have an escrow account. And what is this escrow account? I want to talk about what escrow means after you've already purchased your home, closing is complete, you're moving in. Escrow means one thing in this context, and it's kind of different prior to that. But what I want to talk about is what escrow represents and how it serves you after you have purchased your home. The money that you are putting in your mortgage payment, part of it is going into escrow. Now, again, this isn't the construct 100% of the time, but for a lot of us, this is what you'll see, is that part of that mortgage payment is going into escrow. Because here's the thing, when you look at that PITI, if you had to pay all of it separately, it would go to different collectors. It would go in many different directions. An escrow account kind of nicely consolidates your property taxes and your insurance amounts, your insurance premiums. It puts them all in one nice tidy place so that you make one payment. You make that one mortgage payment, and it kind of covers all of your bases. So the escrow account serves to kind of help keep you organized. And what it's doing is it's building over time so that it can meet those bills that come semi-annually or annually, depending on when you're going to pay those property taxes. That could differ based on your county, your state. Your insurance premiums, those are typically annual, those homeowners insurance premiums. But these are not things that, it's nice, right, to not have to fork up one lump sum every year for like a whole total bill of homeowners insurance. You'd rather pay it little by little over the course of 12 months. Similar logic for the property taxes, right? So that's where your escrow is really, really helpful. And our initial mortgage payment, those first several months, the T component of it, the taxes, it just wasn't enough to cover the annual bill that we're going to face come November. We're not going to have enough. So our mortgage, total has now been adjusted. It's been increased to cover that. So that all of that is just simply what's in a mortgage. All right, but now that we have a good understanding of, okay, so now I know that my mortgage is all these pieces. And by the way, a lender, in determining how much house you can afford, they're going to look at all four components, PITI. They're not just looking at the P and the I. So be aware of that and crunch numbers based on all four components. Go and look for those calculators online that'll tell you, they'll give you an estimate. They're not going to be perfect, but an estimate of what your property taxes might be. You can call, insurance companies and get quotes for certain addresses of homes. And that's a great way, and that's completely free, right? To go and get those quotes and try to get a good idea of what are we going to pay in homeowners insurance for this property. And if it's a new build, that's a little bit trickier, but you can give them all of the kind of details of the home, where it is, the neighborhood that it's in, all of these things, and you have something to work with. So then you can take all four pieces and say, okay, what are we actually going to pay? HOA fees, that's another thing. If you're going into a property that is subject to kind of homeowners association rules, you're going to pay HOA fees. And by the way, those aren't flat. They're not flat. You're probably going to see, it's going to be pretty easy to find if you look up the neighborhood, what are my monthly HOA fees for this community? But sometimes your homeowners association wants to do some fancy extra thing, renovate this area or this clubhouse or put in a new parking lot, and they need the community to foot that bill. So they're going to say, okay, each resident, each home is going to pay $60, $100, whatever it might be. And that's outside of those monthly HOA fees. That's not included in your mortgage. That's not your PITI, right? But it's something that you can absolutely anticipate paying. I briefly talked about PMI, private mortgage insurance. This is a monthly cost that you'll have if, when you purchase the home, you did not put at least 20% of the cost of the home down as a down payment. Again, not applicable when we're talking about VA loans, and it's not something that is permanent. Sometimes you'll have these things that say, well, once you have this much equity in the home, like this percentage, then PMI falls off. Okay, so you want to look at those specific things that will dictate how long you're paying it, how much, but PMI is absolutely relevant for a lot of people. That's a cost that a lot of people don't talk about either. Continuing with the insurance conversation that goes beyond that initial PITI, flood insurance. If you're moving into a home that is in a, kind of in a floodplain, you can find yourself, it's in your best interest to get flood insurance. And that is an additional cost on top of kind of that baseline homeowner's insurance that you would see inside of PITI, inside of your mortgage payment. That flood insurance is more. That hazard insurance component is an additional cost. Now, I always like to shift this other piece. When people talk about renting versus owning, now we start to get into these things that are hidden and they're not as often discussed. One of those being those maintenance costs that are they're going to be ongoing. They're going to be a fact of life. Even if you move into a brand new home, you will see issues over time with, it could be the roof. It could be maybe you're having issues with plumbing. We've already seen issues with, AC components that we've had to have replaced. And you're going to need those funds to cover these, routine maintenance costs. New AC filters, right? That's a routine thing. That's just you taking good care of your home. But you could have, window damage. I mean, there's so many different things. You're going to need to maintain your home. And that tab, when you own the home, that's on you. Right? We know that, but do we really consider that we should be saving money month to month to help cover these costs? This is why I say, if you are a homeowner, the number one savings bucket that I'm going to tell you to start putting into is a home maintenance savings bucket. Same logic goes for when you own a car. You need to have a car maintenance savings bucket because these costs are coming. So the natural next question is, okay, Rachel, well, how much do I save? I think a good rule of thumb is 1% of your mortgage balance every single year. That's what you should strive to save in maintenance costs. All right. And that's a good kind of general wag at it, right? Because you do need to consider, how old is my home? What are the renovations that have gone in here, if any? You're taking a lot of things into account, but you really can't go wrong if you're putting in some money month to month to help you cover these maintenance costs that you're going to run into. All right, so that's one that I don't care who you are, how new your home is, where it is, that is going to be relevant. And it's something that not a lot of people talk about. Another thing to keep in mind with new builds is, blinds, curtains, fencing even. Those were all things that, we started from scratch on every single one of those in our new home, and we weren't prepared to do that. That was definitely a blind side. So there are some particulars here when it comes to a new build. I mentioned property taxes, but then those costs that they're really not going to be relevant to the next person who buys a home that's been owned by someone else before. It's not a brand new home. They likely are going to have those blinds. They'll have a fence. They'll have those things in place, but you might be starting from scratch if it's a completely new home. But these things that you might want to do to kind of upkeep and secure your home, so home security, all right, that's a cost that's on you, and it likely becomes a monthly cost if you're looking for the ability to kind of have a system that's connected to people who can respond and come to your home if something happens. That's a monthly charge, right? You look at landscaping and lawn care, pest control. Here's one that's interesting that became relevant to us recently. Is what we've noticed here in Florida. We live in Tampa. Is that the storms, the thunderstorms can be pretty severe. And we've actually seen way more like power blips in our home than I ever anticipated that we would. And actually had a family member, their home was struck by lightning, and they had a lot of, appliance issues and power issues inside of their home. Really kind of shook me to go, okay, what do we need to do so that we have some sort of protection against this? And the answer is uninterrupted power supply, or UPS. And having that, protection and those surge protectors and those things to say, okay, if something happens and something is struck, or we have these power blips, that it's not going to completely fry, our appliances or our TVs. We've already had one TV. It was old, but it went completely out after one of those power hits. And so this equipment putting in, and it's not cheap when you want to do it, to be pretty well covered throughout the home. To make sure that you've kind of got that surge protection for one thing, but also that you can continue to have, internet and the things that you need to do your job or just kind of operate as normal in your home. These are separate pieces of equipment and functionality that you add to your home that is extra. And one thing it's completely optional. it's not going to be relevant to everybody, but if you're moving into a home and you know that you're going to be renovating it, maybe you're going to do a big kitchen renovation, or you're going to add a room, or you're going to convert the garage into another space. Obviously, those renovations are a separate tab, and many of those can be especially expensive. So my top recommendation here is, in addition to your maintenance savings bucket, set up one that is for renovations. I am all about organizing your money so that you best understand what the different dollars are supposed to go towards. Okay, and of course, life is going to throw its curveballs at you. Absolutely. Things will come up with your home that you didn't anticipate, that you didn't budget. It's also why I say that when you're a homeowner, your emergency fund, the general rule of thumb being, hey, you should have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. I'm going to tell homeowners, and especially homeowners with kids, you need to be floating on that high end of 6 months, maybe even going up to 7, 8, 9 months, okay? Because you've got many more expenses that are likely to kind of strike you, and they're going to be all on you. When you're renting and somebody else can kind of foot the bill there, such is not the case when you're the homeowner. So your emergency fund needs to be higher. Life is going to throw its curveballs at you, but the more that you can set up those kind of safety nets and have, funds in every direction for different purposes, you are preparing as best you can. And the best budgets are built by those who really try to be prepared. And that's where you start to be blindsided a lot less often, because you've built in these measures and these buckets and all of these different kind of pockets of money to cover you when you need to be covered. I always encourage this community, challenge what people tend to just accept as, well, this is what it is. You need to own a home to build wealth, because renting is throwing away money. You can't become a millionaire on just, your 9 to 5 and your retirement vehicles from that. Actually, you can. Let's, put money under the mattress. If you don't put money under the mattress, you're going to lose it all. No. I find that when you take something that people have just widely kind of accepted and you're willing to zoom in on it, you're willing to do a little bit more work to fact check it, to critique it, oftentimes what you'll find is that what people have just kind of accepted as truth has some flaws in it, and you become the savvier spender, the savvier saver, the savvier investor, and kind of you come out on top, at least from a financial perspective. This happens left and right in my community as I learn more, as I share more information, as I meet more people, hear more stories. I really kind of put my gloves on when it comes to someone just saying, well, this just is. Maybe it's not. Let me know in the comments if you are a homeowner or if you've been considering buying a home and something really resonated with you today, something new that you learned in this video, other information, other tidbits you might share for other aspiring homeowners in the comments. Please drop those below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so that you get notifications when I drop new content. I will see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in.